So,
I mean, sort of maybe after you have a job offer, just doing some fact finding on like how many hours do your partner, you or associates spend here on Saturdays? Or how do people sleep here at night? Do they go home ever? Do they have children? Do they have relationships? How healthy are those relationships?
Check for a shower and a gym in the building.
I mean, obviously these are, yeah, I mean, they're hard questions, but if you can get some honest answers, I don't know. And there's probably not a perfect employer out there.
There is a group out of Stanford called Building a Better Profession that tries to survey the top whatever law firms for kind of livability standards.
And yeah, I mean, you're right. There's certain categories of question lists, and they're like the really empty, shallow questions where you could have looked at their website. I mean, you need to do some research and not ask like, how many partners do you have or something that you could have easily asked. But they're polite questions that you ask when you're still dating. Like, you don't ask about their previous relationships when you're on a date, right? The first date. You're like, why did you break up with the last 5 people? Were you unfaithful? You don't ask about that stuff. I mean, it's like your common sense. But then when you have an offer and they want you, then you can start asking. I would find the people who left and talk to them. They may not might be the best representative, but talk to some people. And realize, though, you have to weigh that, too, because they might be looking for another job and may not feel like they could be candid. But, their reasons for leaving may not match up with yours, but talk to some people who were there and may have left.
And just tapping all the networks you can to find people there, for your school, for this group, any other groups.
I think back in the back there was a question. I think the gentleman in the green shirt. No, okay, sorry. Maybe not.
Trevor.
Oh, Trevor.
sure. One of the messages about the impact here in DC is that you have employers there who are looking to hire people with disabilities, so it takes the disclosure process out the window, and you don't have to deal with it as much. Everything's much more focused. So could you talk for a minute about the impact career fair?
Do you want my honest opinion? I am unsure of how many people actually get jobs out of that. This is very anecdotally and no official endorsement whatsoever. I interviewed at that fair one summer, but it was just because I was there for the NALSWD conference. I wasn't really interested in any of it. Tends to be a ton of government employers. They're very DC centered, and firms, and then a few public interesting places. And the people I know that got law firm jobs from Impact are people with perfect resumes and grades that would have rocked out in any on-campus interview, and they would have gotten the offer regardless. I think Impact is a really great concept. I just worry about, is it really making a difference in getting us hired? Stuart?
So one thing I wanted to say is it's difficult sometimes to find employers that are specifically looking for disabled employees. But one of the things that's really happening is that disability is becoming part of the overall diversity umbrella. And there are a lot of both law firms and companies and all sorts of entities that have really taken that up in recent years. So as part of your sort of looking for good matches and places that you think will be receptive, don't just look for, did they hire someone with a disability? There's just not enough of us out there, I think, right now to get a good beat on that. And there's all sorts of issues with finding the people based on disclosure issues. But if you can take a little bit of a cue from reading up on what that company says about diversity, which gives you some good lead. Then when you go into your interview, if you are the kind of person that wants to disclose or thinks that you want to be in a place that's comfortable, or that's a line you want to pursue, you can feed your story directly into the company's story about values around diversity and so forth. And that there is something that you can take advantage of if you're savvy about it.
I think we have time for one more question, so.
Sorry. guess a lot of this has been once you get the interview or once you are selected for a job, and I'm from Korea. And there are not so many even things to apply for or interviews to be had. Do you guys have any advice for people with disabilities or people in general about even getting to that point?
I mean, the one thing I would say, which this is not a perfect, I don't think there are easy answers right now, it's tricky, but there are organizations, I don't know if they're firms so much, but I know like our organization loves to have volunteer attorneys who are looking for work, and sometimes that can be, if not a foot in the door somewhere, at least provide you some good connections to talk to about, you know, their connections and their other possibilities they may know about. So, you know, I think that is a good way of getting some experience and networking. So that's one thought, although it's not perfect and it may not be feasible everywhere, but.
I mean, a lot of people with disabilities have a complete home office, and so there is contract work and, you know, there are temporary agencies